McKinley in 1901. And of course they assassinated Abraham Lincoln also by the laden bullet. So we flip the page over here, and you got this man here, James Buchanan, which they were trying to poison him because all of the men of the North drank tea and all the men of the South drank coffee. And so what they did is they poisoned him, all the tea, and then all the ones who drank tea, most of them died. So it says in 1857, February, President James Buchanan escaped a wholesale poisoning in which 50 were affected and 38 died. And so anyway, there's a great long history of poisonings and death. And Abraham Lincoln here was shot by the laden bullet, with JFK also was shot by a laden bullet. Here's a photograph of Ford's Theater, and during the assassination, John Surratt, who was the Jesuit accomplice that got Booth to go in there to assassinate, stood outside and counted, and many of the witnesses witnessed John Surratt as John Booth entered into the building. And here you see inside depicting John Booth murdering Abraham Lincoln, jumped off the stage and ran. And what's interesting is when they finally caught up with John Booth, he had a Catholic medallion held in his hand as he clutched it when he was shot to death at a barn. But what's really interesting about John Surratt is they spent 18 months looking for him, and obviously they killed his mother because the mother was involved in the conspiracy and used her house was the location of all these people who were secretly conspiring to kill Lincoln. Well, anyway, when they finally caught up with John Surratt, it took them 18 months to find him, and they had a $25,000 reward, dead or alive. And when they finally found this John Surratt, guess where he was? Here he is, John Harrison Surratt, in a papal uniform at the time of his arrest and return to the United States. Here's John Surratt in his Pope's uniform. He's the bodyguard of the Pope. Isn't that interesting? 18 months they finally caught up with this character, and here he is as the Pope's personal bodyguard. And no wonder this history's been buried. All you have to do is read the trial of John Surratt that's in the government congressional papers. Again, this book is very important. It's all documented by that general that sat on the board of the trials. This book is called Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln by Thomas M. Harris, late Brigadier General. And this book is very important to read and understand true history. Very few people know the history of Croatia, how it was made into a state in 1941. But this book here talks about the whole history, and it's called The Vatican's Holocaust. And what happened was the Vatican wanted its own independent state, and so they formed a state out of Yugoslavia. They took the southern part and formed Croatia, and the Catholics killed 1/3 of the entire population of Croatia. Most of them were Eastern Orthodox, and you never hear this in your history books. They always say it's always the Jews, it's always the Jews. No, you need to read the history of Croatia. And this book is written by this man right here, and his name is Avro Manhattan, and he's a resident of London, and during World War II he operated a radio station called Radio Freedom, broadcasting to occupied Europe. This man found out that the Vatican was behind World War II, behind Hitler, in fact behind everyone, behind the international banking system, and he wrote like a dozen books or so talking about these atrocities and who is truly behind it all. This book is very heavily documented with pictures and documentation. Here you see a Catholic priest, and here he is changing uniform into Utashis is what they were called in Croatia. And when the Nazis swept through Europe, it opened the window and the door for the Catholics to have the Utashis dress in their uniforms, have concentration camps and so forth to kill 1/3 of the entire population of Croatia. Here you see on page 68, the Catholic priest here is given all those souls wish not to be killed the option of either being baptized into the Catholic Church or being put to death. And here you see him baptizing those who do not want to be killed, so they will swear an allegiance to the Pope and Rome instead of death. These are the atrocities you see here in Croatia. And of course they all want to talk about Germany, but they never want to talk about the Utashis and the Catholics killing all the Orthodox and all those who oppose the Catholic Church. Here they hold up as trophies. The Catholics held up the Protestants of the Catholic Church, or Protestants of the Catholic Church, and this guy's head is actually cut off, and he's holding the head on so he can have his trophy picture taken. Interesting to note, back in 1776, Adam Weishaupt, who founded the Illuminati, was a Jesuit at the Jesuit University in Germany. And what happened was he was Jewish, and they call them crypto-Jews. Whenever a Jew swears his allegiance to Rome and gets baptized in Rome, if you look up that word crypto-Jew, it tells you that's what the definition means, a Jew that swears an allegiance to Rome. Anyway, it's interesting that the Illuminati, basically, they made sure that they blamed the Jews for everything. That was part of their great secret, is that every time somebody would see everything that was after 1776, let's get this straight, none of the Jews had any power before 1776. All their power came after 1776, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all those were established after 1776. Thus, everybody blames everything on the Jews, and this was the whole plan of Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati, which is a branch of the Jesuits. And so just think about it. Everything that happened after 1776, the Jews are behind everything, so they can turn around and blame the Jews and kill the Jews for everything, and that's the Lord's people, is the Jewish, the house of Israel, Judah, where the Jews derive from. Okay, here's the definition of crypto-Jew. It says, crypto-Jew. The term crypto-Jew is also used to describe the descendants of the Jews who still generally secretly maintain some Jewish traditions, often while adhering to other faiths, most commonly Catholicism. And here you see, here the big word is secretly. It's called a crypto-Jew who's secretly adhering to Roman Catholicism, basically to Rome's doctrine. So here we see this is the Illuminati plan to get the Jews all persecuted, because they're actually, the Jews that are really running the show are actually working for Rome. This is Brandenburg Gate in Berlin, and this is a picture that was photographed May 8th, 1945, showing the destruction of Berlin and Nazi Germany. This also became the Iron Wall, ran right through here. And here you see the European Union coin. And this is actually a 50-cent coin, European Union coin. And look, they have the same depiction of the Roman Empire. As you see, here's the four horsemen, like the four apocalypse of Revelations. You got like the white horse, you got the red horse, the pale horse, and the black horse. It's interesting, they got the four horsemen, and up on top they have the symbol of Baal with the Roman eagle up on top. It's all interesting how when you understand symbolism you can see all this. But it's interesting how they minted a coin right here depicting this is actually the symbol of division and reunification. And so here you see it was destroyed at one time, and now they're going to reunify Europe, the European Union, and build up the Fourth Reich, which the First, Second, Third Reich continue to try to build up this New World Order. Now we're entering into the Fourth Reich under the New World Order of the Roman Babylonian Empire. This is another good book called Rulers of Evil, about Tupper Saucy.